Moving into regular business, Council addressed some new policies regarding physician recruitment and the use of town property, and made some decisions about a few large-scale building projects. A quiet January is good news for the Public Works Department, as it means they haven't had any weather-related breaks or breakdowns to deal with. Right now, Manager of Operations Denise Sakay says he's looking into a tree asset management program offered through Manitoba Forestry and widening out the cleared sections of some back lanes for easier access for garbage collection. The big project Sakay is involved with at this meeting is the excavation for the Hamilton Street extension. 3 tenders were received for the work, which involves removing about 25,000 square meters of soil. The work will begin as soon as possible to take advantage of the frozen roads, which helps when running upwards of 1,200 full truckloads of soil on them. But the lesser depth of frozen ground in the area to be removed means it won't pose a problem for the excavators. The soil will be classified and stockpiled in various locations for future use.
Yeah, it's been very quiet for Public Works. We've been very fortunate that we've had no major breaks, no issues going on around the community, short of just snowfall cleanup. So we've been busy with that. As I mentioned last meeting, we are down 2 staff members to retirement, another one to resignation. So we have 3 job postings currently out to the end of the month. So we'll be receiving applications till then. I was contacted through Manitoba Forestry Division to see if we wanted to participate in a free tree inventory asset management program. So the province still has money left over through the 2 billion tree program. And they reached out to see if we'd be interested as part of the asset management tracking. So they've consulted with Green Drop, I believe. Could be wrong on that one. But they've engaged with a consultant to come around into our community, and they would log all of our tree boulevards and our public parks, go through that, so they'd inventory everything, species of tree, get all the information vital need for it, provide it into a ArcGIS map for us. Then we just have the subscription going on that, and then we'd have access to all that data, so that whenever we have any other elm inquiries or resident inquiries about trimming, health, stuff like that, we can go through this information and kind of provide it out.
That's pretty cool.
So.
Did you say that was going to come with an annual subscription though, if we agreed to this?
Through the ArcGIS, which we could also still use to track other community inventories.
Okay.
So we could track our manholes, our park benches, our sidewalks, our roads, like easy, anything in that. So we still have to inquire to see what our annual cost on those would be. But the fortunate part is that the inventorying that they're doing for us is at no cost to us. Sure, that, like I said, Public Works have been kind of busy just tidying up some snowfalls. I've had them working on some back lanes, just widen them out. We've had some concerns for when we're doing garbage collection. Some of the back ones were just a little bit narrow. So our collection service company is having a little bit of a hard time going back there. So we're in the process of widening those out and just kind of tidying up any little piles that are still scattered around the community. So we'll be busy with that. Yeah, so I put a call out for some quotes on some work that I'd like done for the excavation of the extension of Hamilton Street from Broadway Avenue going east to the top of the hill. I kind of broke this apart from the separate of the whole entire road construction just because there was so much excavation work on this one and I didn't want to do it during spring or summer just because of the burden of heavy trucks and pedestrians and kids running around, so I thought off-season would be better. So for what we pay a little bit higher in construction cost for removal now, I think we'll gain hopefully by not destroying our streets with trucks driving around. So I did an invitation to 5 different contractors in our immediate surrounding area. We received 3 quotes back. Costin Chucks, P. Baker Backhoe, and Rob Smith and Son. When reviewing those quotes, we determined that, Matt Rempel. Pat Baker did not bid. So it'd be Rempel, Costin Chucks, and Smith. Matt Rempel was low bid on this project, so I believe he was 258.
246. 416 plus GST.
So what kind of timeline are you looking at there for starting?
We'll have a construction meeting kind of outline that out, but ideally we'll be moving excavating faster than ground can freeze. So contractors want to move swiftly. So we have 25,000 cubic meters of soil to remove off that site. And then come spring, summer, then we'll look at reapplying the proper base material in there.
And with having had such cold weather, like frost, is it going to be,
No, so our recent excavations where we've been doing the land drainage sewer, anywhere where there's been traffic driving on it, we've been finding anywhere from 3 to 4 feet of frost penetration. Once we moved into the open field that had that great blanket of snow on it, we were looking anywhere from 6 inches to a foot of frost. So the excavator for having no trouble with 6 inches of frost. And that being on the outside with a huge accumulation of vegetation plus that snowfall covering it, I don't feel we'll have very much frost in that area to work with. So the bigger burden may be to remove those giant oak trees, unfortunately, that have to go out of there. But so this project also has some importance that we want to get moving on too, because the sooner we get the excavation work done on this project, we can get the Manitoba Hydro underground to our new lift station in place as well. So kind of a whole bunch of chicken and egg project to finish one before we get that one completed and kind of keep chasing ourselves.
okay, Councillor
Question. You said 25,000 square meters?
Cubic meters.
Cubic meters? 25,000? How many cubic meters in a truck, roughly?
Oh,
Depends on the truck, 24 loaded.
not even.
Yeah, 20.
20 yards.
So we've got about 1,200 trucks of dirt.
That's why I wanted a frozen street to
Yes.
drive on.
Yes, good work. Just pointing that out, that's why it's so important that it's
So
done
we'll
now.
probably, we'll be splitting this soil fill in a few different locations because there's so much of it. And then we'll also determine what classification of soils are coming out of it. So if we're seeing nice topsoil, we'll probably do a set aside stockpile to exhaust that. If we get into some siltier stuff, that's obviously garbage. We find some nice clay. Like I said, each component of soil we excavate will determine how we're going to place it and where we're going to store it.
CAO Colleen Sinchishin brings forward a few items, including a notification about the need to upgrade and do a fire inspection on several healthcare buildings due to new legislation from the Manitoba Fire Code. As well, as per our bylaws, the town will be adding some property cleanup costs to the tax roll for residents who did not otherwise follow the town's bylaw enforcement measures.
And the last one I have is from the Office of the Fire Commissioner. This is the Shared Health Fire Sprinkler Installation Update. In 2016, the Manitoba Fire Code legislation was enacted requiring all hospitals and personal care homes to be retrofitted with built-in fire sprinkler systems no later than January 1st, 2026. So they provided a list and talked about retrofitting on buildings located in a number of municipalities, and they understand it may not be completed by January 1st, 2026. So compliance with this particular legislation for the Manitoba Fire Code is mandatory. The Fire Prevention and Emergency Response Act requires the local authority to enforce the fire code within their boundaries. Hospitals and personal care homes are required to be inspected annually by the local authority in compliance with the fire safety inspections regulation. So we have been speaking with our fire chief. We are going to make sure we will get the fire inspections done. Just so you know, for Neepawa, they were conducted more regionally from the shared health perspective. And through COVID and whatnot, we had inspections booked. We were trying to get this done, and then based on the fact they couldn't enter facilities, it was delayed. So we're setting up those inspections to occur in the first quarter of 2025 to get those done, and make sure there's any corrective actions that we looked after that. So when you look at the list, you're going to notice the Country Meadows Personal Care Home is actually not on the list. So we were doing a little research to find out why. We're going to guess that the age of the building probably met the fire code at that time, hence they did not need to be on the list. The Neepawa Health Center actually is on this list, and I'm going to guess the fact that they gave the expected completion date to adhere to the sprinkler system of March 31st, 2028 falls outside the scope of when we will open our new regional hospital. So we will meet the requirements of inspecting the building annually until that date, and I will be following up on this, but to invest money in adherence to the fire code for that is probably, a non-starter. So.
Okay, any questions? If not, we'll move on to finance. Accounts receivable to taxes call.
So this particular resolution speaks to the enforcement on two particular properties that was done in the fall of 2024 to enforce property standards. They were given a notice requiring them to clean up their properties. They were subsequently sent an order to clean up their properties. Failing to do so, the planning office requested the town of Neepawa to continue the process of proceeding with enforcement. We did go on site late last fall and cleaned up those properties using a private contractor. We now have received the billing for those particular properties, and I'm asking you to add those costs to tax roll in compliance with bylaw 316616 via bylaw 3165-16 and the Municipal Act, which allows the municipality to collect those costs in the same manner as taxes.
New business included addressing the variation application heard during the public hearing earlier in the evening. Because several community members brought forward concerns about the variation, and because the town wants to hold their standard laid out in their bylaws and precedents, the motion to approve the variation was unanimously defeated. This does not mean that a development will not go forward in that area, just that the application needs to be revised and resubmitted to be compliant with the current regulations.
Okay, resolution, be it resolved that we approve variation application V09-204 of Zen Developments respecting lots B and D, E, G, H, K, L, M, Plan 62813 at 342 Mountain Avenue to reduce the number of off-street parking requirements for commercial establishment building from the required 44 parking spaces to the proposed 34 parking spaces within the commercial central zone as required to satisfy the severing of 443 square meters parcel of subdivision 4437-23-8574. Moved by Deputy Mayor Parrott, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Discussions.
I'd like to speak on it. This is a subdivision, or this is a variance related to a proposed subdivision requesting the required 44 parking stalls be reduced to 26 actual, but with an agreement with the town to allow 8 partial parking spots that are partially on town property and partially on the owner's property, still leaving 10 less, which is greater than the 15% friendly variation allowance. And this will basically congest the area and really affect a lot of future decisions and past decisions.
Okay, seconder. Comment.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just in going through the process of the public hearing. We did have people speak to it in opposition to it. I guess as someone who's been on council now for 10 years here, one of the things at our core is that we've always made a point of trying to set precedent, right? And when we have set precedent within our community, that we follow through. We've always tried to work with those that have done developments to see what we can, but in defending our downtown core, we've been fairly rigid. We've seen multiple applications come in the past where with the housing of that, and we've held that standard with some minor changes in the past. Just recently, in the past few years, we had another business owner that approached purchasing a business on Main Street, wanted to do some developments there that was going to require parking. We defeated that because we said that we had to defend that area. So in my mind as council, it's our responsibility, if we have set those precedents in the past, that we have to defend that and apply that rule fairly across the area. And especially to when we also had members of the community that are directly attached to the area that came in and spoke in opposition to it. So I won't be voting in favor of this particular motion.
Okay, any other discussion? Councillor Butler.
I too am not in favor of this motion. I often think as a driver because that's primarily how I get around. But Mrs. Jasnick had a really good point about the safety with the walkways. There is no sidewalk on the other side of that street. And so if people are traversing that area on foot, it's further going to congest and make it a little bit dangerous perhaps. And from the number of to have 4 people actually engage at a public hearing is unusual. So I heard that, or I guess there was 3, I'm sorry. I heard that there was opposition to this and not a lot in favor. So I'm not for this.
Yes. Councillor Costa.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of this as well, just for the simple fact we have a responsibility to uphold guidelines, and as Councillor Gerard said, we've denied in the past, and we have to stay in a straight path, and that's just how it is. So I'm not in favor.
Okay, Councillor Sisseling.
I think Councillor Parrott, when he first spoke, he touched on it, is that this is technically 18 spaces that they're out. We can accommodate 8, but that still leaves us 10 spaces, which is over the 15%, so I'm not in favor of this.
Okay.
Well, I'm the only one not to go here. You know, I've always stood for following. We have rules for a reason and laws and bylaws, and we have to kind of try to follow those. And I just can't see us getting there with 18 or even 10 is pushing it. It really affects residents, it affects businesses. But I do see, like, there is things that could probably happen to make something work. I don't know what that is, and that's not for me to figure out, but I think there's a way to possibly work with the applicant to figure out how to make something work that would meet all those standards. I really hope something could happen, so I would have to vote also not in favor.
Okay, we've heard the resolution, so I will ask for those in favor of the motion. Those against? So that motion is defeated.
So I'm going to ask, under the Authority of the Planning Act, the reasons when you reject applications now that you have to provide something to the applicant. Having listened to all of these around the table, the reason for rejection would be the inability to accommodate sufficient parking to meet the appropriate guidelines of the planning authorities and more appropriately our zoning bylaw, and of course the impact on the central commercial zone by intensifying downtown. Is that acceptable?
Council then approves their economic incentive for 2 recent residential build projects that brought a combined total of 68 new apartment units into the community. Howden Housing, which is responsible for 4 new 2-story apartment buildings, 2 of which appear on the 2024 tax assessment, and Valley's Edge, which built a 36-unit building on Mountain Avenue, which also appears on the 2024 assessment, qualify for a 3-year phase-in on the municipal portion of their property taxes.
Howden Housing, Colleen?
So this is an application for development center by Howden Housing. Development incentive bylaw 3176-17 provides economic incentives for the construction or expansion of a multi-residential zone property that increases the assessment value of that property by a minimum of $750,000. Once added to the assessment roll, properties that meet the assessment threshold are eligible for a 3-year progressive municipal tax credit on the general municipal portion of taxes. 75% reduction in year 1, 50% in year 2, 25% in year 3. Having met the criteria of the bylaw, Howden Housing filed their application to be considered for that incentive based on the construction of 4 2-story apartment complexes reflecting a total of 32 dwelling units. Units A and B were included in the assessment roll for 2024, reflecting an increased assessment for this property of roughly 1.5 million for each of the two buildings, or 3 million in total, where the threshold is 750,000 for the entire property. Units C and D have not yet been added to the tax roll. However, the assessment branch anticipates that these units will appear as a supplementary addition to the roll in 2025. Similar assessed values are anticipated as all 4 buildings are the same. The recommendation is to approve the incentive, Units A and B to be processed for the years 2024 to 26, and Units C and D to be processed once the assessment branch has added those units to the assessment roll, expecting that incentive period to run from 2025 to 27.
Is this subject to their taxes being current, up to date?
They are.
Okay.
And Valley's Edge going.
So this next one is 10089-084 Manitoba Limited, or otherwise known as Valley's Edge on Mountain, or the Cameron Street Apartments. Everybody calls it something a little bit different. So the same incentive was applied for as in the previous resolution, and they met their criteria for the construction of a 36-unit apartment building at 351 Mountain Avenue. The development was included in the assessment roll for 2024, reflecting an increased assessment for this property of roughly 4.95 million, where the threshold was 750,000. The recommendation is to approve the incentive for the period running 2024 to 26.
Okay, any questions? Whereas 10089-084 Manitoba Limited has constructed a 36-unit apartment building on lots A and B, plan 69785 at 351 Mountain Avenue, and whereas 10089-084 Manitoba Limited has submitted an application under bylaw number 3176-17 to be considered for development incentive, and whereas the assessment branch has entered an assessed value for the development of the 2024 assessment roll, which meets the required threshold under the bylaw and deems their project eligible for multi-unit residential progressive tax incentive. Therefore, be it resolved that we approve the application of 10089-084 Manitoba Limited, providing for a development incentive as per 2.13 of bylaw 3176-17, resulting in the phasing in of the general municipal portion of taxes for the 3-year period 2024 to 2026. Moved by Councillor Sicily, seconded by Councillor Gerard. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Finally, Council approves a couple of new policies that are really just modifications to current practice. The Physician Recruitment Committee has asked for a commitment of $2 per capita, not just from Neepawa, but from the surrounding municipalities as well, to assist in their recruitment efforts. For Neepawa, those have already been very successful, bringing several doctors to the area with more on the way, and for the most part, keeping them here as well. They also approve a new policy that will outline fees for services for the use of town-owned parked and streets for events. This is intended to officially document what is already practiced for these requests when they come to the town office.
So this is a request of the Beautiful Plains Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee. There might be others that actually would like to speak to this. We have, since probably the year 2011, used a portion of our budget, $2,500 to be exact, to go over to this committee to be used for recruitment and retention initiatives. We all know there's a shortage of doctors and possibly other medical type staff, mostly for physicians at the moment, but they're requesting an increase to $2 per capita, which would bump us up, to greater than, I think it's $11,300 and some dollars, I don't remember. But so from the $2,500, which was in place since 2011, to go to an increase to $2 per capita.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Well, I would speak highly in favor of this. we're also asking that the other municipalities surrounding us contribute as well, and I believe they are. This physician recruitment and retention committee has been ongoing for several years, and it has resulted in the continuous flow of doctors into this area. We currently have Dr. Lichet coming in the fall, and we're working on 2 other doctors who are one is taking an extra year's training to be a little more talented here, and another one is currently doing locum service, and we're doing what we can to entice her to stay. And we've got, I believe it is 8 doctors going in the one clinic, and Dr. Kazaniak in the other clinic. And this, in a time when we are surrounded by communities who are struggling, trying to keep a doctor and get one there and then keep them for more than 1 or 2 years, which is also a problem. We're doing fairly well, and we should give a lot of credit to this group of committee, which is headed by the doctors and has municipal representation. But it's their efforts that have kept this community alive in our medical world. So yeah, we'll support this. I'll support this.
Yeah. No, good comment. Anyone else? Okay. Resolution reads, be it resolved that we approve increasing the annual grant to the Beautiful Plains Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee to reflect an amount of $2 per capita starting in the year 2025. Moved by Deputy Mayor Parrott, seconded by Councillor Sisley. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and what looks like our last one, parks events permits.
So this is a new policy to establish procedures and processes and permit fees for the use of public town-owned parks, possibly the use of the street events, and of course parade permits. This is to give, I guess, some concrete documents in support of what we're doing already. We require people to fill out forms when they come in here and want to segregate or portion off a piece of our park for a specific event. And it takes a look at whether they need picnic tables, are they using the cook shack, do they need garbage services, do they need barricades. Those run at a cost to the town. So when we look at anybody for a specific use or personal use, we would like to put in print our ability to charge and outline those fees to people early in this year. We're getting requests apparently to book part of the parks and different things, and we want to put it in print so that it's very clear where we're going forward.
Okay, any questions? Straightforward. Be it resolved, we approve policy OP-PK 010, being a policy to regulate processes and procedures and establish permit fees for the use of the town's public parks and streets. Moved by Councillor Kostenchuk, seconded by Councillor Pottinger. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Council also discussed Dutch Elm management, staff retirements, and RCMP recruitment. If you have any comments or questions about these items or topics about council and the municipal government process in general, please contact us at 204-476-2639 or by email at nactvnews@gmail.com. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.